and should be getting on any moment.
Mm.
Okay. I'm just wondering if Marvin or others got mixed up. Anyway, I'll start the sponsors and then we'll pick up, okay? Learning sponsors, Year of Learning, Paul and Bob Bromberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. In memory of Malka Mann, our former member, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah Bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Shall assure her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Israel ben Harav Akiva, Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel Pinchas ben Harav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edel Bas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, and Irving and Pearl Kaplan, friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gidler, Sharon Bas Yeshaya, friends of Toby Peres, Saratova Bat Yisrael Dov, friends of Malka Levi, Malka Bat Yosef, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, many friends of Dr. Marvin Blosh, Moshe Shalom Ben Yitzchak Halevi, and now a month of learning, starting today is what, the 15th, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it includes B. Pizer in memory of her father, Ischado Ben Shmuel, Mordechai and Miriam Burr, in memory of his mother, Manya Bas Harav Shimon Halevi, Cheryl Schur, in honor of those who joined her first series of epistemology of Tefillah classes. In Week of Learning, in memory by Michael and Judy Poretsky, in memory of his mother, Rachel Bas Avram, by Jack Gilman,
excuse me,
in memory of his brother, Zeb Yosef Ben Yitzchak, by Sharon and Michael Glass, in memory of her mother, Chaya Bas Avram Baruch, by Susan and Ron Podolsky, in memory of her mother, Chaya Bas Avram Dov. And that is it. May the Neshamas have an aliyah, Krank Rafia, Velti Yashir Shem Matzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good gebenched yar. Okay. Zeb, I believe, is still in the hospital. And I don't see Marvin. We'll see what happened. Okay. Bob is on, Erwin is on, Harvey. We will get, I don't know what happened to Steve. We'll see. Okay, we are on Daled Amud Aleph. We are approximately 9 lines down from the top of the Amud. Okay, we were dealing with the fact that there was a machloket between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Do we use the concept, I'll say for the moment, of the Miluim, that model, as a parallel for the sequestering of the Kohen regarding Yom Kippurim? Reish Lakish disagreed with Rabbi Yochanan, who used the Miluim as the model and claimed the model should be Har Sinai, and that Moshe Rabbeinu actually was sequestered for a certain amount of time. Okay? So at this point, having presented the initial machloket between the two, the Gemara wants to continue now with a discussion of the fact that there is supporting material for each. Okay? So we're picking up sort of where we left off, as I said, approximately 9 lines down on Daled Amud Aleph. Okay? Right? Reish Lakish had argued against Rabbi Yochanan by telling him that Amale Ma'ale Ba'alma, that basically this was a don't use the argument that they used water, okay, instead of blood. That was simply a matter of upgrading, in a sense, the style of the spritzing, of the sprinkling. So now the Gemara tells us, and this is where we're starting new today. Tanya Kavate de Rabbi Yochanan. There's a braita that supports the view of Rabbi Yochanan. But Tanya Kavate de Reish Lakish. And there's a braita that supports the view of Reish Lakish. Tanya Kavate de Rabbi Yochanan. The braita which supports the view of Rabbi Yochanan, based on the pasuk, Bezot Yavo Aharon El HaKodesh. With this, Aaron will come to the Kodesh, to the Mishkan. Bamesh Amor, what are they talking about here? Be'inyan, with this item that's being discussed. Mai hi be'inyan, what is the general topic being discussed here? Dimiluim, that it deals with the inauguration ceremony to establish the Mishkan as a place of worship. Ume amur be'inyan dimiluim, and how do we know that the general topic here is in regards to this inauguration component? Okay. Aharon piresh sheva. Okay. Aaron was separated 7 days. Vishamash yom echad. And then he served on 1 day. Umoshe masar lo kol shiva kedei lechancho ba'avodah. And during those 7 days, Moshe handed over, basically instructed him all of the aspects of the avodah for him to carry out. Va'af ledorot kohen gadol. And so likewise for later generations, I'm going to translate it, as for the high priest, Kohen Gadol, Poresh Shiva, Umeshamesh Yom Echad, that they sequester him for 7, and then he serves for 1 day. Now, the Gemara tells us at this point, Ushnei Talmidei Chachamim, Mitalmidav Shel Moshe, and there were 2 students, okay, sages from the disciples, I'm going to use, of Moshe, la'afuke tzedukim, to exclude Sadducees. Mosrin lo kol shiv'ah, they transmit Passover to the Kohen Gadol during those 7 days, kedei lechancho ba'avodah, in order to educate him with the order of the service. Remember, we mentioned that at one point during the Bayis Sheni, the Second Temple, the position of Kohen Gadol could be bought and not simply passed on. And therefore, one did not know the quality of learning of each individual. Okay? Mikan amru shivat yamim kodem yom hakippurim mafrishin kohen gadol mibeito lishkat parhadrin. From here we learn, okay, that 7 days prior to Yom Kippur, we sequester the Kohen Gadol from his home to the Lishka, to the chamber of the Parhadrin, the chamber of the authorities. Ukashem shemafrishin Kohen Gadol, kach mafrishin Kohen hasoref et hapara, lelishka she'al pnei habira, tzafon mizracha. And likewise, says the Gemara, the same way we sequestered the Kohen Gadol, so we sequester the Kohen who is authorized, let's say, to burn the para aduma, and we separate him to a chamber that's by the bira, okay, in the northeast corner of the temple precinct, right? Ve'echad zeh, mazin alav kol shiv'ah, mikol chataot shahayu sham. And this one, we sprinkle on him water, okay, during those 7 days from all past, let's say, purification waters that were available. Ve'im tomar, and if you want to say, b'meluim dam hacha mayim, that can't be the parallel, because there is a difference between meluim, where the sprinkling was done by blood, and here, before Yom Kippur, it's done by water. Amart, I could tell you the following: Nichnesu mayim tachat dam, that the sages required it be water in place of blood. Va'omer, and I would say, based on the pasuk, ka'asher asa bayom hazeh tziva Hashem la'asot l'chaper aleichem, citing the pasuk that Rabbi Yochanan, remember, had used previously, where we darshaned the two words la'asot and l'chaper. Here too, la'asot, to do, elu ma'aseh para, that is the procedure for carrying out with the para aduma, the red heifer. L'chaper, to atone, elu ma'aseh yom hakippurim, that is the procedure of the worship of Yom Kippur. And the fact that the pasuk says zot, v'hai bezot, mibaya le legufei, okay, bapar ben bakar lechatat, va'ayil le'olah. That is needed for itself. So that's Reish Lakish's challenge still. Okay, isn't that needed for the pasuk itself to tell us specifically what animals are required, namely that a ox is required, right? Par ben bakar for a chatas offering, and a ram for an olah offering. Amre, I might say, therefore, ila korban lechude, if it was each sacrifice, each offering in and of itself, lema kra bazeh, then the text should have said, with this, o be'ela, or with these. My bezot, why does it say with this in the feminine format? Shamat mina tarte. We can learn from this two items. Number one, that what offerings are required, and number two, that it also refers to the sequestering. So, Gemara thou asks as follows: Ma'i va'omer. So, what does it mean when the text of the Torah says, okay, and tells us, V'chi tema Yom Kippurim kamahu debai prisha k'de'eshkachan b'mluim? Do we say here, might we say that we're referring to the very first Yom Kippur, okay, where that is what needed sequestering, just as we found with Miluim. Aval b'Yom HaKippurim da'alma, lo. But with Yom Kippur for later generations, or in general, I would say no. Inami, or perhaps I might argue the following way: Kohen Gadol kama hu deba'i prisha, that Aaron, as the first Kohen Gadol, he needed sequestering. Aval Kohen Gadol ba'alma, but a Kohen Gadol in general, no, would not need it. Tashma, come and therefore hear what the pasuk tells us: Ka'asher asa v'chulei, as was done. That's the example. So that's the proof, according to the view of Rabbi Yochanan, that the Miluim serve as the model for sequestering in regards to Yom Kippur. Now, the Gemara goes on, because it told us that there was also a Braita that seemed to support the view of Reish Lakish, that model is based on Har Sinai. So let's see. Tanya Kivate de Reish Lakish. And there's a Braita that teaches according to Reish Lakish. And this is what the Braita tells us. Moshe ala ba'anan. Moshe went up in a cloud. V'nitkaseh ba'anan. And he was covered by a cloud. V'nitkadesh ba'anan. And he was sanctified within that cloud. Kedei lekabel Torah liYisrael b'kedusha. In order to receive the Torah for the Jewish people in a state of sanctity, of holiness. Shene'amah, citing the pasuk, Vayishkon kivod Hashem al Har Sinai, that the glory of Hashem rested on Mount Sinai. Zeh haya ma'aseh achar aser hadebrot. That this occurred, okay, this incident, this situation occurred after, according to the Braita for Reish Lakish, the giving of the Ten Commandments. Shahayut Chila, that those were at the outset, the Arba'im Yom, of the 40 days that Moshe spent on Har Sinai. Okay? Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili. That was the view of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Okay? So far we see, again, that the Reish Lakish can bring support to his position that the sequestering is based on the model of Moshe at Har Sinai in that case. Now, Gemara continues with a discussion of this Braita, let's say. Rabbi Akiva Omer cites the following pasuk, Vayishkon kivod Hashem, when it says that the glory of Hashem rested on Mount Sinai, Mirosh Chodesh, from the beginning of Sivan. Okay? Right? We're coming up, right? Soon. And so now the Gemara is actually going to transition a bit into another discussion. V'yechasehu ha'anan, Rabbi Akiva continued, and when it says that the cloud covered him, lahar, it implies it covered the entire mountain. Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe. What does that mean? V'chol Yisrael omdim, that the entire Jewish people were standing there at the foot of the mountain. V'lo ba hakatuv ela lechalek kavod leMoshe. And the fact that Hashem called to him specifically was to acknowledge, right, the importance and honor Moshe. Now, Rabbi Natan Omer, he suggests as following: Lo ba hakatuv ela lemerek achila ushtiya shebeme'av l'sumo kemalachei hasharet. No, that the calling out, says Rabbi Natan, was due to the fact of to allow Moshe to purge his body from the food and drink that were in his intestines in order to almost make him equal to ministering angels. Another explanation, Rabbi Matya ben Charesh Omer, he says as follows: Lo bahakatuv ela le'iyem alav, that the text calling out to Moshe came to threaten him, okay? Make him tremble, make him quake, almost. Kedei shetehei Torah nitenet be'ema uberetet ubezeya, in order so that the Torah would be given with fear and trembling and quaking. Okay? Shene'amah, as it says in the pasuk, Ivdu et Hashem b'yira v'gilu b'ra'ada. Okay? In Tehillim, the verse, right? Serve Hashem with fear and rejoice with trembling. So the Gemara, as a side question raises. All right. Mai v'gilu b'ra'ada. What does it mean when it says to observe Hashem with trembling? Amar Rav Ada bar Matana, Amar Rav. In the name of Rav, b'makom gila, sham tehe ra'ada. At a time when there is joy, there is trembling. B'mai kamiflage. So what are they arguing about? Rabbi Yossi Haglili v'Rabbi Akiva. Beplugde dahani tanai. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva, their machloket is similar to the machloket of the earlier Tanaim. The Tanya, what was that? The following. B'shisha b'chodesh nitna Torah Yisrael. On the 6th day of Sivan was the Torah given to the Jewish people. Rabbi Yossi Omer, says Rabbi Yossi, b'shiva bo, that it was on the 7th day. So what do we see? Man de Amar b'shisha, the one who said it was on the 6th day, b'shisha nitna u'b'shiva Allah, namely that it was given on the 6th day, and on the 7th day was when he went up. Right? Dictive, and reading in what was parenthesis, Vayikra Moshe b'yom hashvi'i, because the pasuk says Hashem called to Moshe on the 7th day. Man de Amar b'shiva, the one who says it was given on the 7th day, b'shiva nitna, it was given on the 7th. U'b'shiva Allah, and he also went up on the 7th day. Again, citing the same pasuk. Rabbi Yossi Haglili Savarla Kitana Kama. Rabbi Yossi Haglili is of the same opinion as the earlier Tana, the first Tana, who says, the Amar, B'shisha b'chodesh nitna Torah, that it was on the 6th day that the Torah was given. Hilkach ze haya ma'aseh achar aseret hadibrot, that thus this was the occasion after the giving of the 10 Commandments. Because then the pasuk says, Vayishkon kivod Hashem al har Sinai, Vayichasehu ha'anan sheshet yamim leMoshe. Okay, that the glory of Hashem rested on Mount Sinai, okay, and covered it as a cloud for 6 days, okay, for Moshe. Vayikra el Moshe b'yom hashvi'i. And then a pasuk says, and Hashem called to Moshe on the 7th day, lekibule sha'ar Torah, and that was to receive the rest of the Torah. De'is al kadatach, because if you're going to think to say the following, Vayishkon kvod Hashem, that the glory rested, okay, mirosh chodesh, from the beginning of the month, v'yachasehu ha'anan lahar, and the cloud covered, referring to the mountain, vayikra el Moshe b'yom hashvi'i, and Moshe was called on the 7th day, l'kibule aseret hadibrot, to receive the 10 Commandments, ha kabilu laho mishisha, but didn't he receive it on the 6th day? Vaha istalek anan mishisha, and then the cloud departed on the 6th day. V'Rabbi Akiva savarla k'Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Akiva holds the same view as Rabbi Yossi. Da'amar b'shiv'a b'chodesh nitna Torah Yisrael, that on the 7th day of the month, the Torah was given to the Jewish people. Bishlema Rabbi Akiva. Now that seems acceptable vis-a-vis the view of Rabbi Akiva. Hainu de mishkachet la b'shiva asar b'tammuz nishtabru haluchot esrim va'arba'ad desiva. Why? Because it would seem, therefore, that we find, as the Masorah teaches us, that on the 17th of Tammuz, the Luchot were broken. Esrin va'arba'ad Sivan, which meant it was the 24th of Sivan. Vishitzar de Tammuz, Malu Laho, Arba'in Yomi. And when we get to the 16th or 17th, right? Right? The 16th of Tammuz, right? Malu Laho Arba'in Yomi, Dahava Baha. That results in a total of the 40 days that he was on the mountain. Ubeshivsar Tammuz, Nichet. And on the 17th of Tammuz, he was going down. Va'ata, okay, when he came, Vatavrinhu leluchot. And that was the occasion when he broke them, those luchot. Ela Rabbi Yossi Haglili. But according to the view of Rabbi Yossi Haglili, the Amar Shisha de Prisha, who claims that there were 6 days of sequestering, Va'arba'in dahar, and 40 days on the mountain, ad esrin utlat batamus. That would make it up to the 23rd day, I believe, right, of Tammuz. Okay? In that case. Lo it bor luchot. Then the luchot were not broken on the 17th of Tammuz. Amar lach Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Rabbi Yossi Haglili, however, could then argue with you and defend his position by saying, Arba'in dahar bahade shisha de prisha, that those 40 days, okay, were basically in addition to those 6 days, of sequestering, was in addition to the 40 days. Amar ma, and therefore, when we see that the text tells us brand new, another statement regarding that pasuk, Vayikra el Moshe, that he called unto Moshe, Moshe v'chol Yisrael omdim, that Moshe and all the people, all the nation were standing. Messiah le Rabbi Eliezer. This seems to support a view of Rabbi Eliezer. The Amar Rabbi Eliezer, who says as follows, Rabbi Eliezer, Vayikra el Moshe, Moshe v'chol Yisrael omdim. That when he called to Moshe, Moshe and the entire nation were standing. V'lo b'hakatuv ela lechalek kavod leMoshe. And the text is citing only to bring honor to Moshe. Now, based on that pasuk, okay, excuse me, we have a challenge. Meitive. What is a challenge? And says, Kol lo, the voice to him. Kol elav Moshe shama. B'chol Yisrael lo shama. Implying that the voice to him was that the voice only went to him. Moshe was the only one who heard. And the Jewish people then did not hear it. Lo kasha. He says that doesn't have to be problematic. Okay? Ha b'sinai, ha b'ohel moed. At times that could be one thing towards Sinai and another thing when Moshe was in the Ohel Moed. V'ibayat ema. And if you want, he says I could explain it in the following manner. Lo kasha. It's not problematic. Ha b'kri'ah. In one case, we're talking about calling out. Ha b'dibur. In another case, we're talking about specifically speaking to him. Now, Rabbi Zrika wants to further discuss this with the following. Rame kra'ai kame de Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Zrika raised a contradiction of psukim before Rabbi Eliezer. Va'amrela, and he said to him, Amar Rabbi Zrika, as follows, Rabbi Eliezer, Rame Ktiv. And others say basically that it was Rabbi Zrika who said that Rabbi Eliezer was the one who raised the contradiction of psukim. Namely, it was written in one place, Kativ, V'lo yuchal Moshe lavo el ohel moed ki shachen elav ha'anan, that Moshe was not able to go and approach the ohel moed because the cloud rested. In other words, the glory of Hashem rested on it. Uktiv, and it's written elsewhere, Vayavo Moshe b'toch ha'anan, that Moshe went inside the cloud. Milamed shetafso HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe v'heviu ba'anan. This seems to imply that the Kadosh Baruch Hu actually grabbed Moshe and brought him inside the cloud. Now, Devei Rabbi Yishmael Tana, in the academy of Rabbi Yishmael, they taught as follows. This is how they dealt with this apparent contradiction of psukim. Ne'emar kan betoch, it says in one pasuk, within, v'ne'emar lahalan betoch, and it says elsewhere, within. Namely, v'yavo'u b'nei Yisrael b'toch hayam, that the Jewish people went inside the sea. Malahalan shvil, the same way there was a path for them. Dichtiv v'hamayim lahem choma, that the water was like a wall, therefore there was a path through the water. Afkan shvil, so likewise for Moshe, there must have been a path through the cloud in order to get into the Ohel Moed. Okay. Now, our Gemara continues, right? Vayikra el Moshe, vayidaber. The pasuk then says, and he called to Moshe and spoke. Lama hikdim kriya ledibur. So here the Gemara is going to take a transition to something that is a little bit, let's call it a side issue, a different perspective, and to teach us something new, okay, based on this pasuk. Lama hikdim kriya ledibur. Why do we find that it said calling before speaking? Lamda Torah derech eretz. The Torah wants to teach us proper etiquette. Shelo yomar adam davar lechavero, that a person will not say something to his neighbor, his colleague, ela im kain karahu, unless he called him, brought him, okay, privately to tell him. Misayele, the Rabbi Chanina. And this supports the view of Rabbi Chanina. The Amar Rabbi Chanina, who said, Lo yemer adam davar lechavero, that a person will not say something to his neighbor, ela im kain korehu, unless he has called him, so to speak, brought him closer. Lemor, this comes to tell us, Amar Rebbe, this is Rebbe Rabbah, Minayin laomer davar lechavero, shahu babal yemar. At what point can we say that a person can tell a neighbor something which should not ordinarily be told? Ad shiomar lo, until he tells him, lech emor, go and tell, shene'amar, vaydaber Hashem elab me'ohel moed lemor, that Hashem spoke to him from the Ohel Moed, telling him as follows. Miklal de travaihu savira laho melu'in. Now we come back to our original discussion. Okay, we finished the etiquette lesson. Okay, and we come back to point out it would appear now that Rabbi Yochanan has convinced Reish Lakish and that they both agree that the model for sequestering the Kohen Gadol for Yom Kippur is the model of the Miluim. If that's the case, the Gemara wants to raise some considerations. Miklal de travayu svira laho miluim, since it seems the two of them are now on the same mindset that it's based on miluim, that would seem to imply kol hakatuv bahen ma'akev bahen. Anything that was delimiting in regards to the miluim should apply to the Yom Kippur procedures. De'itmar, as it says, miluim, regarding the miluim, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina, machloket between the two of them. Chad amar, kol hakatuv bahen, ma'akev bahen. One said anything that delimits one delimits the other. B'chad amar, and one of them said, davar ha'ma'akev ledorot ma'akev bahen. That's something that might limit it for future generations. That would be a limiting it. She'ein ma'akev ledorot. If it doesn't limit it for future generations, ein ma'akev bahen. That doesn't delimit it. So the Gemara now says, to stayem, you may want to conclude, the Rabbi Yochanan hu da'amar, that it's Rabbi Yochanan was the one who said, kol hakatuv bahen ma'akev bahen, that anything that is written regards to miluim is going to be that which will delimit, okay, the Yom Kippur. Midika amarle, and since it says Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, as was said by Reish Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan, Eima miloim kol hakatuv bahen ma'akev bahen. If we're going to say that everything written regarding miloim, okay, has an effect on Yom Kippur, velo kamahadale velo mideh. But we see that Rabbi Yochanan did not answer him whatsoever. Tistayim, you have to conclude then, my benayu, what's going to be the difference of their machloket between them? We're going to see tomorrow then, as we continue on Hey Amud Aleph, okay, that Rav Yosef is going to suggest that there still was a difference of opinion between Reish Lakish and between Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, and that's what we're going to see. Okay, basically, just to introduce it real quick, that it may have to do with the smicha, with the laying on of hands on the sacrifice as a way of designating. Okay, and that's where it's going to, why I'm stopping here at this. Okay.
Hey, thank you very much. Have a